This conference will now be recorded.
So guys, do you have any questions regarding previous session? Anybody have any questions about Salesforce? Okay, hope you're good. So yesterday we discussed about Salesforce integration. We seen both the things, guys, how to retrieve the data from the Salesforce via batch process, and then how to ingest the data also we seen. And then today we are concentrating on this RAML part, how to create the RAML and all. So earlier sessions we discussed about the REST APIs thing, and as well as SOAP APIs also we discussed how to publish, how to consume. So here we this RAML will utilize for REST APIs. How to publish the APIs when you are trying to publish APIs. So we use that listener in the source location, right? So that time you're trying to publish your URL to outside, right? So people can consume your APIs. So when you're trying to publish your SOAP APIs, we are sharing that WSDL file, right? Web Service Description Language. We are trying to share to others. They are trying to consume it, right? So here also, when you're trying to publish your REST APIs, so there is a concept called RAML, REST API Model Language. So we have to prepare this one, REST API modern language. So this will helpful to consumer to understand what was the URL to you are trying to publish it, and then what was the body it is, what was the each parameter type. So mandatory fields, optional fields, these kind of things. They can get that help to understand the APIs. Apart from that information, apart from the documentation, you can say uh, it will clearly tell them how many fields are mandatory, each request, how many fields are optional in the each parameter type, right? So sometimes people will expect some list of values in a single field, right? Array type, right? All the information clearly they can understand after seeing this REST API, guys. So eventually, because of this RAML, they get two advantages. One is documentation, right? So after seeing this, they can clearly understand what they have to send, what was the request URL it is, what was the body it is. They clearly understand. Second thing is how many parameters we have to send, the mandatory out of suppose when you are trying to create an opportunity, or else when you are trying to create an account. Yesterday we seen, right? So we are trying to ingest the account into account object as object in the Salesforce. We did not send all the fields, right? Only few of the fields we send it, right? So even though if you are sending few of the fields, the account get created, we seen clearly, right? So out of a bunch of values, how many fields we have to send it, right? So that mandatory, optional. So that way also it will helpful us. So, and how to write this RAML. So the purpose you clearly, maybe you people understand only the two reasons. One is the documentation, and the one is mandatory, optional, and the each parameter return type it will clearly tell us. And then how to write this RAML. So this is nothing but AML language, guys. YAML AML. So this is nothing but AML script. So either way you can write it. Two ways you can write it. One is in any point studio itself you can write it. So we have to add the plugin called RAML editor. So in the help, you can go and install any software RAML editor. You can add the RAML editor. The second way is, so hope you guys created an account the Anypoint Studio, Anypoint Studio. We can create an account. Hope everybody have an account. In this, there is a concept called design center. Once you logged in, it's get expired. Once you logged into the anypoint .mulesoft.com, so you can see the multiple modules in the anypoint .mulesoft.com. So this is one of that. So there is a concept called design center. Just go to the design center. So there is a way to design the API here. Just log into here. So these are all the modules which is implemented by MuleSoft guys. You can see this all these module access management, API manager, runtime manager, and data gateway, all these things. I'll just go for design center as of now. So this is a design center. So this design center utilizes to implement the RAML. If anybody don't have an account, please try to create an account, guys. So here, uh, many options are here. So if you go to login as a runtime manager, you can click the symbol actually. Once you click the symbol, whatever the option you want to choose it, you can go and see the inside the things. So as of now, we'll just see the design center. We'll see the other options later. In the design center, so there is an option called to create a API design, API specification. So here is an option, click the API specification here. So then create whatever the name you want. Just I'm giving RAM and demo I'm giving. Just click the create button here. So everything is a GUI guys. Just click the button, select the option like that. You can see it here. So this is the RAML editor. So it will support the suggestions also clearly, whatever you want to do. It's clearly help us, right? When you're typing something, it will clearly give the suggestions in the bottom. Right, I'll just go through the existing one. So basic one we'll see. After that, we'll see the next level of that, how we'll do the other options and all. So there's a basic one, guys. Hello world RAML I just created. So I'll just walk through that line by line. So each line what it will do. So the only difference is when you implemented RAML in the RAML editor, the design center, and any point studio. So here, if you want to see the result, you have to deploy it and you have to see it. But whereas if you implement in the design center, so here is a mocking service option is there, guys. If you just click it now, so automatically here, so it will get create an URL. You can see it here dynamically. The URL get updated here. When you stop it, the mocking URLs, the URL get disappear, right? So what happened here when you are choosing the mocking service, so it will get deployed into the this particular location, right? And it will give the output and all, right? So that was the advantage. Here only you can see either whatever you are going to return. So the RAML is correct or not. We can see it here itself without deploying. But whereas if you implement that RAML in the Anypoint Studio, so if you add that editor clearly, so some mistakes it will show clearly. But if you want to see the output, you have to deploy it. That was the difference. So make sure. So it's better to write the use this design center and implement it. So that next level we have to deploy all these things. We have to add this. Publish into some exchange and all. If it is available here, we can exchange into the publish into Exchange, right? Exchange is the another product which is implemented by MuleSoft. You can store all your RAML APIs and all. From the publish, we can add into the API manager, so that options and all we'll see. So if it is available here, we can do all this next level of implementation, right? So that it's better to implement here itself. I'll just walk through it. What are all the options here? So there are different parts in the RAML where you are implementing. The first part is header part, guys. In the header part, so we have to implement like what was the version of the RAML. So there's a 0.8 and then 1.0. So that will by default it will come. So you don't need to write that one. So automatically it will appear when you try to create a specification. Automatically it will come. So that is 0.8 is the old one. Now 1.0 is the latest. Next one is title. So what was the purpose you are writing this one? Based on the naming conventions, based on your application, right? Why you are going to write it. So that we have to mention clearly. Based on your application, based on your what you are going to do it exactly. So after seeing this, people can understand so a little bit why you are writing, what was the purpose of that, what was the project name it is. So that way, so give the proper naming conventions, the title of that, and then so these are resource types actually. So we have different types of resource types. Like resource types is nothing but how we are planning to publish your API, right? If you see it here, so earlier we just drag and drop that HTTP listener in the source part, in that we are giving path, the base path, and then localhost, all these things we are giving. And then here we can add it base URI also. We are planning base URI, so that base URI also you have to mention, that is HTTP localhost, whatever the URI it is. So here if you see the dynamically appear here, the mocking service, that's what I didn't mention, but people can make the URL also here, but it should not be the localhost, right? So here mock URL automatically it will come, so that's why I didn't mention here. Otherwise you can mention all these URL also here. It is a base URI, basically how you are planning to publish your URI, so that we have to mention. And then next one is resource type. This is nothing but a resource type, one of the resource type. So this one actually uh, based on your requirement. So generally when you will write this RAML, so only if you know the end-to-end requirement clarity, so that time only you can write the RAML, guys. Otherwise you can't able to write it. For example, suppose you are going to uh, create an account. Think like this: create an account or else create an opportunity. Right? When you're trying to create an opportunity, so what are all the fields required for that? When you're trying to create an opportunity, what are all the required fields required for that create opportunity? Right? What is the request? Right? What is the body for that? It's a create is nothing but a post, right? We're trying to post the data to server, right? Target system. So you should know the request body, you should know that, and then you should know the response also, guys. When you're trying to implement a RAML, so you should aware end-to-end clear requirement. For example, I'm trying to create an opti. When you're trying to create an opti, so this is nothing but a post request, right? You are trying to send a body to target system, right? When you're trying to send a body to target system, so we should know the request, right? What are all the parameters, right? So in that, what are the mandatory parameters, what is the optional parameter, right? And then even the mandatory or optional, we should know all the return types also, right? Return types, description, all these information we should aware it, guys. So then that time only you can create a RAML. Otherwise you can't able to write the RAML. So here, so when you here I'm just if you see it here in this particular example, so we'll mention like a resource type create opti. So, right. Similarly, one more option is suppose I just want to give a facility after creating an opportunity, I just give the update opportunity also. That is nothing but a patch operation. Once update operation done, so then I'm just want to give the facility to delete the opti also based on the requirement. So these are all different operations: create opportunity, update opportunity, delete opportunity. Each one is one API will publish it. So whoever requested, either they want to create an opportunity or update opportunity, delete opportunity, so they'll simply call it actually. So these things we have to mention clearly in the RAML, right? When you're trying to create an opportunity, what is the request, right? So what is the response also we should mention actually, right? So the mock response we should show them actually, right? So here also when they're trying to create an opportunity, what is the request for that? What is the update required? What's the update response? So when they're trying to delete an opportunity, so what parameter they have to pass it, right? What are the query parameters they have to pass it? When they delete it, what response they are expecting, right? What is the request URL basically? That request URL we have to they can able to see in the RAML actually. So they will try to. It's kind of a documentation I told you, right? They will try to play with the RAML. They can able to get it. What is the request URL for that? So based on that, they will try to implement their code. So there in the sense here that nothing but a consumer. Once you've done a RAML, we'll try to share that RAML console to the consumers. The consumer, based on that, he can implement it. So how we are expecting a request body, either we are expecting a JSON format or else XML format or else some other any flat file format, so they can understand based on this RAML documentation, guys. I hope you guys are clear. If you're not clear, please let me know, guys. I will try to explain why you are writing this, what was the purpose of this. So here similarly, I'm just exposing at publishing as a my one of the API is hello world, right? So after HTTP localhost 8081, so the v1 slash hello world, right? In place of localhost generally, so we are working in a localhost so that we'll get a we are putting it as localhost, but generally we'll get a some domain name here, right? So once you deploy into the cloud hub, we'll get some domain name here. But so this is a part of the URL only, the whatever the resource type you mentioned here. So there is a part of the URL, right? So slash hello world. So there's optional resources. Next one is get, guys. Get. If you're talking about the HTTP, right? So the HTTP protocol have a different types of methods, right? Get to, put to, post to, right? We've seen already in the postman when you are trying to hit a request, we've seen all these kind of methods, right? So here also same thing I was trying to explain. This is a post, one of them. So in this particular API, so we are trying to create an opportunity, right? That is nothing but a post because we are trying to post some information to Salesforce. So here also you can see the patch. User already created opportunity. He get change his mind. He want to update his own opportunity. So that's why you are putting a patch here. So the next one is you don't want to continue that opportunity, just delete that. So within some certain criteria, right? So maybe within a week or within a day, they can able to allow to delete the opportunity, right? Similarly, other operations like post to, patch to, delete to, and then get to, guys. So get also one of the method. So the frequently methods, only these four methods, along with there's a few more methods are available in the HTTP protocol. Okay, so they will see these four types of methods. So the first one is get. So get is nothing but, so if you see it here, when you're trying to post it, we are sending some body, right? Whereas in get, so there is no body, there is no body. So you are trying to get that particular opportunity, whatever I create an opportunity, I just want to see the details of that opportunity, right? So for the time, you have to use the get opportunity, right? Similarly here also, I just want to get some information from the target system. Okay, so that is a HTTP method declaration. The next one is and we have to observe here, there is some hierarchy we are following, guys. If you see here, title, base URI, and hello world. These are all in a, straightforward. The same line we implemented. After that, one tab space, guys. So this is, we have to remember these things. One tab space, we have to give it. After that, we have to give get. Again, after that get, we have to give one tab space. Then I have to give it responses. Means when you're trying to when you're trying to hit the get request, you will get some response. Either maybe it's a failure response or a success response, whatever it is, right? So the responses we have to mention it. So there is a 200, 400, 500, right? Maybe 400 plus, right? 401, 402, 403, 501, 502, 503. So 201, 202, 200. All these are responses. When you're trying to hit any URL, right? You'll get some response. Any REST API call, if you hit it, you'll get some response here. So this is one of the response. 200 plus always success, guys. Either 200 or else 201, 202. All these things are success responses. So next one is, here I didn't mention any failure responses. We'll see the failure responses also next POC. In this, when you are getting a 200, so that's nothing but a success response. So you are trying to get some data from the target system. If you are getting a 200 response, so you are trying to get up some body, right? So what kind of body you are getting? There's a MIME type you have to mention. Either you are getting a application slash JSON, or else either you are getting a plain text or XML. You have to mention the media type, right? There we have several media types are there, MIME types, right? So that we have to mention here. This is a body, this is a success code, and then so we have to follow the hierarchy here. And then so there's a MIME type here, and then here when you are trying to get a response back, right? So suppose this is a response, basically example response I mentioned here. The message is hello world. I just get only one parameter back with a JSON format. That is nothing but a hello world, right? When you're trying to get some response back, I just want to restrict it actually. So we have to write the schema for that. So in this particular scenario, I wrote schema within the RAML. I wrote example within the RAML only. It's generally, this is a small POC, so that I mention the schema file here and the example file here. So generally, we have an option called include. So using that include, you can create outside here. There is a plus symbol here. You can create a import it or export it, or else you can create a new file here. So create a separate file in the left side, whatever the example.json, right? Or else schema file, that is also JSON. So create it, it will appear here. So that you'll write outside, then we can include here. So we can avoid this all this stuff here. And we just simply include it here. We'll see that one. And the example also here. So what I'm trying to writing here, I'm trying to restrict it, what parameters you are getting. So are we getting properly or not? So that kind of restriction we can do it in the schema, right? This is a schema. So what I'm trying to write in the schema, so the title is hello world response, type is an object. This is a way to write the schema, guys. Properties. So how many properties you are getting, so that we have to mention inside the properties, properties tag. So I'm trying to get only one field, that is nothing but a message. So what was the return type it is that mandatory or optional, or else is it how many length of the particular parameter, right? What was the example of that parameter? All these things we can mention it here, right? But from the type of the string, we can mention all these information about this particular field, right? So that is nothing but a schema. So eventually the schema will take care, right? How the parameter look like. So what was the return type it is? What was the length of that parameter, right? What was the sample value of that parameter, right? all these information about that particular fields. Not only here we discussed about only message fields. Apart from that, you can mention a list of you will get a multiple fields also in the response, right? It's a JSON body. So how many parameters you are getting? That parameters will be, we have to restrict here actually, right? So it will tell us about the either maybe request or response. Here basically I restricted a response. So along with response, we can so basically people will request the body actually, right? So that we have to mention the schema. So and then so next one is finally example. Also I put it here only. The response is like message hello, right? So this is the thing overall. So anybody have any question?
Venkat,
Go ahead.
yeah. After type, there's a colon and there's one bar. Can you tell me why that single line is there? Yes, this one.
This is actually this is for schema purpose only. They put it actually. Uh, this is a segregation actually. We are telling this is nothing but a schema, whatever you have mentioned schema. So this is nothing but what this is nothing but a separate file you can say. So generally we won't write this schema or else body this example inside the RAML. So this is nothing but a separate file. That means that is a segregator. They put it. It's a separate file. That means you can see only for separate file only you are getting this one. This is a segregation.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
And then you can see each one is hashtag is nothing but a the comment purpose we have to use it. Each line is what was the purpose it is we mentioned in the comments clearly. The hash is it's nothing but a comment. Any other questions, guys? So hope you guys are clear. So why we are writing a RAML here? So let's see. So once you've done that one, so you implemented the RAML in the uh, design center. So before creating a project, guys, so earlier what we did, simply we create a project here, right? So file, create a project, all this stuff. We are trying to drag and drop the things. We are trying to implement a flows and all, right? But whereas in here, so when you're trying to introduce a RAML stuff and all, so it's depend on the project, guys. Either maybe RAML required or not, right? That we have to think it. So when RAML is not required generally. So if you are implementing any API, so RAML must be there. So in certain cases, like for example, you are doing some system to system integration, right? So there is no human interaction, right? Suppose here, I just want to migrate data from MySQL to, I just want to dump into some Oracle, or else, so my client want to store all the Salesforce information, SFTC information. So they just want to dump into some MySQL, right? Whatever the vice versa. So whatever the system to system integration, these kind of scenarios, right? Suppose client have a multiple systems across the multiple systems, so they want to maintain some central database, right? So they want to dump all the information to central database based on the cron job, or also uh, based on the some certain timing, right? They want to trigger the job, right? These kind of scenarios, the RAML is not required, guys. So why the RAML is not required here? Suppose here something gone wrong here. We are sending back. If you are getting a 200, so here after hitting the request, you seen the we are sending back 200, right? Response we are sending. Similarly, we'll send a 400 also, 500 also, right? 400, 500. These are all the error codes, right? Error. So 400 plus is nothing but a client side mistake. Whatever we are sending to the target system, that is our mistake. Either maybe body you are not sending properly. So whatever the expectation expected by target system, we are not sending properly, right? 500 is nothing but a server side issue. So maybe server is down, server in the sense target system, right? So we'll send that that kind of response also back, right? If you're getting a 200, then we'll send it. If you're getting a 400, so then we have to prepare it properly where you are getting that one. So that one also people will expect as a JSON format, even though error also, that will send it back to the client system, whoever requesters, right? So if you see here, so when you're trying to talk with system to system integration, suppose I'm trying to migrate the data from MySQL to Oracle. Suppose something gone wrong here. If you're trying to send back, so there is no human interaction here. Even though if you send back the error bus, you are getting error while ingesting the data into Oracle. So he can't able to understand it's a system, right? Separate system. So that is the one part, right? So and then there is no documentation also required right here in this particular scenario, right? So that's why in these kind of scenarios RAML is not required. So that is system to system integration. There is no so chance to do a mistake here. And one more thing, right? If you're trying to create an opportunity, right? So user is trying to send a request. User in the sense end user, he will try to fill the data in the front end system. He will try to simply click submit button. We will receive the body, right? The body request body, it will receive it. Suppose here he did not fill the mandatory fields. So then obviously it will send back your AP, your RAML will take care. It won't hit the target system also that particular time because we already handle the mandatory fields, optional fields here itself, right? When the user is trying to hit the request, immediately first RAML will come into the picture, guys. We have a concept called um, uh, there's one component will generate when you implement a RAML. So that component will take care. We'll see that component. That component will take care to trigger it. So if any mandatory field is missing, it will clearly send back the error message back. The mandatory field is missing. This is required for that. So in case of here, if you send back, there is no chance to do that kind of mistake. We already fixed it system. What are all the expected, right? Here is a human interaction is there is a way to do mistake, but whereas in here, system to system integration, so there is no way to, whatever you fixed it, so always it will come with here, right? So it depends actually when you're trying to implement any API. So if it is required, we have to go for RAML. If it is not required, it's a system to system kind of integration. No need to implement the RAML, right? So that we have to decide it based on the requirement, right? So and then so when you are trying going to implement create a project, first you have to finish the RAML stuff, guys, right? Why? Because so here only you are deciding how many APIs you are going to implement. So if you see here in this particular scenario, I'm trying to implement three APIs. One is create an opportunity, another one is update an opportunity, another one is delete an opportunity, right? So whatever you are going to create a project. So here only you are deciding how many APIs you are writing, right? So when you're trying to create a project, so if it is a RAML specific, so then go to file, new. Here is an option, guys. So in the bottom, we see the Maven, right? You see the Maven recently, how to create a Maven project and all. We click the checkbox here so that it get create a Mavenized project. Apart from that, here there is a one more checkbox here, add API component, right? So once you done that, everything in the RAML, right, in the design center, everything is working fine. You can check it here. So this particular scenario is working or not here. You can click it. You can see the response properly. You can see the schema. You can see the response, all these things. Everything is working. So then what you can do is you can start implementing your project. When you're trying to implement your project, right, you have to upload that RAML here. There is an option called right side. Click the browse button. You can see the API manager, you can see the browse files, you can see the design center, right? So now we implemented design center. What other two options? So here, once your implementation is done, your RAML, so you can download it here, right? There is an option called import or export. Export. So you can download this one. So you can see this hello world.zip get downloaded. Whatever the information, whatever the files are there inside that particular hello world API. So it's a GIF file. It will get downloaded at my local, right? If you want to sorry for that. So if you want to upload via local, so you can choose that option, browse file, or else API manager, other options, guys. So earlier, so the recently, not recently actually, 2017 November, this get upgraded. This there is a crowd 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 version get upgraded, so that they changed that location, the API implementation, API specification, or else RAML implementation. They changed the location. Earlier, we implemented at the location called the API managed only will implement. But now they changed the location. That is nothing but is design center. Whoever worked on older any point platform version, so they implement the APIs under API manager, so that so from there they will try to load the travel, right? That is other option. So now we are going to click this design center. So whatever you implemented there, so we are trying to import into our project based on that RAML. So so you can see the list of the RAML when you add an account. If I already add an account, so first time, so observe here, this is my account name here, right? So how many APIs you implemented there? That many list of RAML, it will appear here. So you can see the hello world, right? I just select the hello world here, right? Similarly, whatever the API specification you implemented, list of API specification, it will display here. The first time it will ask the login, right? Any point platform login after clicking the design center. You have to give it. You can store that password also. How many days you want to store it? It will ask it. So mention that one and logged in it. Once logged in it successfully, so then it will display the count of APIs, number of APIs there, the RAMLs. So then you can select whatever the RAML you implemented, right? Right. So then it will appear here, right? That was the thing. So next one is try to create a project name and then click next, next, finish. Okay. So that's a component. Just now I told about the component calls. That is nothing but API get router, guys. So here, if you see, earlier we didn't see, these are all information. These are all stuff we didn't see. Now the template get generated. The template get generated, guys. Earlier we only drag and drop the HTTP listener. We only continue the business logic or all this stuff, right? But if you see, by it's created some template, right? With HTTP listener, with API get router, and then a reference exception strategy. From the reference exception strategy, it will jump to the exception strategy, right? You can see it here, 400 plus, right? And all the 400s it get handled. The basic exception handling also. So the API get take care, right? Your RAML get take care, right? That basically it get a create a template. How many APIs you implemented there? Only one API, right? That is nothing but a hello world API. That too, it's a get kind of method, right? You can see it here. It hard coded. It's create a set payload inside that whatever the example you put it there. So it get hard coded and it given, right? And then you can see the RAML content also here. Automatically it will appear here, whatever you written there, so that will appear here, right? The schema part and then example part and then whatever you mentioned there, so that will appear here, right? So it will give the basic structure edit here. So after that, you just remove this static payload, then you can continue with your business logic. Either you can make it a flow reference and then separate flow. You can create it all the logic, right? So it will create the template, guys. Then we can continue from here, right? Just walk through it what it did. So here it put the HTTP listener. I just open the configuration of HTTP listener. You can see it here, API/star, right? You can that mentioned by default API/star. That is nothing but a path, and then you can see it here 8081 base path. Just ignore on the 000. So that's our local host, and then API kit router. Here API kit router, it will take care to route the flows, guys. So suppose here I just create only one flow, right? I told you, right, in the example I said like create an opportunity, update an opportunity, delete an opportunity. Each one is separate API, right? So that here now we can see only get method. Similarly, it will create a post method, put method, whatever you mention the method name along with the resource type, right? So accordingly, it will give number of APIs here. So if we come to number of APIs, so how will get to know your HTTP listener or API kit router? It will take care to route to that particular flow. So that kind of intelligence is there in the API kit router, right? Or else we can also mention here actually. So in the API kit router, there is a you can see the hello world configuration already, and then click here, uh, edit thing. You can see the hello world RAML. All these things appear here. If you want to specifically mention, boss, if it is a get method, then go this flow. If it is a post method, go this flow. So that kind of way also we can tell here. You can click plus symbol here. The resource type is /hello1. So here it will display number of resources. We just mentioned only one resource as of now. So that's why only that one appear here. If you have a multiple resources in the drop down, it will appear here, right? The next one also get. So the resource type and then associated method. So this here hello world is nothing but we implemented only get method, right? If it is any post or get or put, whatever it is, it will appear here, right, in the drop down. So that resource type we have to choose it along with that method, and the content type. Suppose if you are passing any body, so then you can mention the content type also, application/json text/plain, whatever it is. So then here finally flow, we have to choose the flow. If your resource is hello world, what is your flow? So which flow I have to read it, I have to go it, I have to go and execute it, that we have to mention here. Click that one. So now it's clear, right? If the resource type is hello world, the action is get method. Please try to execute this particular method, particular flow, get a hello world flow. So similarly, you can mention all these flows, how many flows you have, how many resources you have to mention in the where in the API kit router. Even though if you are not mentioning also, it will take care and it will route it, guys, based on the method type, based on the resource type. It will try to execute this particular flow. Hope you guys are clear. Any questions on this? And then if you see it here, so in the API kit router, it will clearly read the RAML file. So based on that, it will, any issues happen in the request body, they're trying to send us some whatever we are expected. If they are not sending expected information, your API kit router, it will take care to failure the to restrict the thing actually based on your schema. It will read the schema. So according to that schema, the request body is not satisfied, right? So it will throw back an error, whatever the expected information. It will clearly throw an exception, so that in the exception handling part, we have to take care. So we have to clearly send back the response to the consumer. So boss, this is expected. This was missing. We are expecting while creating a body. So this is a mandatory field you are not sending. So without that field, we can't able to go ahead and proceed. Why? Because we have an agreement between the Salesforce and we in the sense MuleSoft, right? So there is agreement. So why? Because even though if you skip it here, suppose API kit router, it will skip mandatory fields. Anyway, it will hit the target system. Target system will give boss, we are expecting this mandate refill, you guys are not sending that kind of response getting back, right? So it's unnecessary transaction. So we can restrict all these kind of things in the Mule itself, according to agreement between the MuleSoft and Salesforce. They will tell us clearly what are the mandatory fields. That mandatory fields will restrict it here, right? So that kind of things it will take care. The API kit router along with the restrictions and all. So it will route the based on the resource type. So in this particular scenario, it will route to when you're trying to hit it. So it will route to this hello world get method, right? If something gone wrong here, right? So you can see it here. We discussed about the reference exception strategy, right? What was the purpose of that? It's nothing but a flow reference kind of thing, right? It will jump to something gone wrong in your flow, your API kit router, or else even your flow also gone wrong. Here, if you keep it reference exception strategy, accordingly it will jump it. If you're not handling, so then it will go to the main flow. That is nothing but a where you are calling. It will go to the back API kit router. It will throw an error. It will jump to wherever you implemented that API kit. You are mentioning the reference exception strategy, name of the exception strategy, right? So the separate configuration file. So it will go there and it will what wherever the satisfied, either it's a 404, 405, 4015, 406, wherever it gets satisfied that particular right, either it's a bad request or else method not allowed or else any issue, right? So it will execute accordingly this particular scenario, guys, right? So you guys are clear? Any questions? So this is by default your API kit router. It will get a few of the exceptions. Apart from that, you can create our own custom exceptions, right? We've seen already how to implement the error handling part. Create a separate configuration file and then call that file so that it will go and execute that. So wherever the cache block gets satisfied, that will work, right? So I'm trying to deploy it. Let's see the documentation. I told like it will give the clear documentation. It will clear the request URL. So based on that, consumer can understand. So what are the things I have to pass it, so that all information will see, guys, where it will appear here. So try to deploy it. I didn't implement any changes, guys. It's a dummy kind of thing, right? So with a static payload and all there. Let's see. So you can see it here. I'll just take the URL out. So here in the logs, you can see the API Kit console URL, it will display here. Take this URL and display into some of any browser. This is the RAML documentation, guys, right? So eventually we have to share this URL to whoever consumer, right? So we'll share this URL to the consumer. Consumer can play with around, right? So what is the resource type? The hello world you implemented, the title of your project, and then click get method here, right? You can see clearly whatever you've done, right? So the description, return types, so the schema, example, all these it will appear here, guys, so that consumer can understand so what needs to be done, what that guy should pass it as a request URL. He can understand actually. Let's go through one by one. I'm trying to hit a get request, right? You can see the clearly the message back, the hello world with the 200 status code, right? The content type is application slash JSON, content length is 30. So you can see this, right? So you can see the request URL. So how that particular the consumer have to send a request? So this way, the HTTP here generally it will come a remote host. So then port number, API, and then hello. This is the request you got. So this way the consumer have to request to MuleSoft so that this particular API, hello world API, it will get triggered, right? This is a request URL. So he play with around this, he can understand how he want to send the request along with any query parameters he have to send, along with any headers he have to send it, any URI parameters he have to send, so that he can understand clearly, right? And then along with that, so we implemented a schema, we implemented a sample example and all, right? So this is a request URL. He can understand, okay, so this is a URL I have to pass it along with what I will expect. This is a get response, right? Get request, right? So that he no need to pass any request, right? He just hit the URL. That's all. If he hit the URL, what response he will get, he can see it here. Without hitting also, he can see it here. So this is a schema part. Observe here, guys. So the title of the type of an object, type of the field, right? Whatever the field it is, the type of field here. He can understand the schema after seeing this. He can understand the sample response, right? Now we show only 200. Along with you can show 400, 415, whatever the frequently getting errors, right? So that we can mention all these things here, right? So this is the documentation, guys. So you no need to explain about your API. You just simply share this URL so that that particular consumer can able to understand how he need to send the request, what he will get the response once he will send the request, what is the restricted things like so in the schema itself, right? What is the each parameter why you are sending the documentation also. So here I didn't write any documentation, right? In the sense, what is the purpose of the message you are sending? You're not saying anything, right? So why you are sending that message, right? What was the why the purpose of the message, right? About the field, right? We didn't say. So that kind of description also we have to mention clearly, right? So this is a eventually we have to share this URL to consume. So hope you guys are clear. So this is a basic example, guys. So let's see tomorrow with the next level. So with all these other apart from the 200 status code, we'll see other scenarios also. We'll see a few more tags I will try to introduce in the RAML, include then enum tags and then security. All these things we'll see. So we'll play with around. So as of now, any questions, guys? So today onwards, what you guys have to do, don't directly create a project. So create a RAML first. Once you, in the RAML, you have to decide what are all the APIs you are trying to publish it, right? If you are trying to publish it, what is the request for that you should aware it? What is the response for that you should aware it, right? Even the request also, what parameters, you have to decide the parameters. The structure of the request you have to decide, everything you have to decide it. After that, try to create a project. Once you finish that part in the design center or else any point studio, even though once you create a project, after that also you can do it. So like once it will generate src main API, right? You right click on this new, create a RAML file, right? If suppose once you create a RAML file like this, how it will generate this kind of a structure? It should eventually it should give sample template format, right? So there's nothing but template, right? I can go ahead and implement logic for this particular scenario, right? So for that, if you implement so directly in the AnyPoint Studio itself, we have an option called right click on your project. On the Mule, we have a generate flows option is there, guys. You can generate flows. If you directly implement the RAML thing at any point studio itself, you can see the generate flows from REST API, right? If you choose it now, it will try to create how many flows are there, the sample structure it will generate it. Hope you guys are clear what I was saying, right? If you implement here, choose that and implement a structure, or else it's better to write, it's a recommended one. So write a design center and upload the RAML in the while creating a project, all the template get generated, so that here you can continue the logic, right? So any questions still now?
Venkat?
Venkat,
Yeah, one by one. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead, Prasanna.
Okay. This importing RAML thing from design centers to AnyPoint Studio is one-time activity, or like every time we need to do whenever we do the changes in the design
The
center?
Yeah, the thing is actually, see, we are in a agile world, so we can't say, right? So at a time we'll create all the APIs, right? So tomorrow so now we created a 3 APIs. Tomorrow they will come and boss, I want to one more API is required, so that you have to add in the design center. Once you add in the design center, you have to refresh it, right? You have to add in your RAML also here, right? Once you add it here, so there is an option called generate flows again, right? I shown you, but make sure existing part should not disturb. I observed few of the times if you try to generate flows again, it will try to generate a duplicate flows again. So that you have to take care of it. So generally that's why I told, when you're trying to implement a RAML, they have to come up with clear requirement. How many APIs? So suppose 10 APIs I want to implement. 10 APIs you have to mention in the design center itself, so that in future we won't get any issue. Suppose if you keep on changes happen now, so here when you're trying to generate a flows, right? Generate a flows, there is a chance to get a duplicates that we have to take care. You guys are understand, right? So here I already generate a flow called get hello world. If we try to click generate a flow again, so there is a chance to get a duplicate flow again. So two things you can do. Go ahead and configuration XML back and side. You can take care and you can copy paste it. Let's suppose I want to create another flow. Just copy paste this part and put into here and then modify it. That's the one way. Otherwise, if you try to refresh it, right, whatever the updates in the RAML, that will automatically get created. But whatever the existing thing is, there is a chance to create a duplicates that we have to take care of. That mostly in future releases that will go.
No,
You guys
that
are
I
clear?
understand. Yes, Venkat. But if we write any small change in the design center, right, any code, we have written any new code, how that will reflect in AnyPoint Studio? That line of code. How
No,
we
that
need to
won't
reflect.
reflect. No, that won't reflect. You have to copy paste it. That won't reflect here. Whatever changes you done here, there you have to do here also.
Okay. Okay, fine.
So generally, this RAML is a single time job, but so obviously, right? If you are in a working as agile, so then keep on changes happening. So, but eventually, this is a single time job, guys. So that's why when you will write a RAML, only you should aware it end to end clearly. So then that time only you can write the RAML. So that's all for today. So any other questions? Somebody asking question, guys? Go ahead.
Venkat, what is this base URI and request URI? We have read different. Base URI is the RAML generated stuff, right?
The
Base
request
URI.
URI is specific to API. The request URI is specific to API. This base URI is at a high level. At a high level, we are giving actually. At a high level, till if you see it here, this is a request URL specific to this API, right? Hello world API. Suppose here create opportunity, it will come. So next API, it will give like update opportunity. Next API, it will give delete opportunity. But request your base URI is what? Till here the base URI. That is a common. You're getting right? You're clear?
Yeah.
Okay. So thanks for that, guys. Other people joined. So if you have any question, we'll discuss next session. Okay. So whoever joined for 7 o'clock, can you please rejoin? I just kill this session. We'll start once again. Thanks, guys. Thanks for joining. We'll meet. So mostly, yeah. So I will update you guys. I have some demo tomorrow. So let's see. I will update you if there is no session. I will update you guys tomorrow. Thanks for joining. We'll meet tomorrow. Bye.